Yeah, good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. It is December 14th. This is Owen Sound City Council's last meeting of 2020. And like just about everybody, I think we'll be happy to see 2020 go behind us. I'm going to remind everyone that council has been spread out. We are 2 meters apart from one another. With staff worked with the health unit months ago to set this up so we don't have to wear our masks in the meeting, but some of us are choosing to do so anyway. So with that, we had no closed session, so there's nothing to report out. Number 4, additional business. Staff, anything? No? Okay. Council, additional business. Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
I might have a couple of happy notes tonight, maybe talk about the 10th Street Bridge and Christmas.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will have approximately 3 items to cover. Confirmation of the council meeting, council minutes. Councillor Hamlin.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on November 30th, 2020, as printed, be adopted.
And all in favor? And that is carried. Next.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that the minutes of the special council meeting held on December 3rd, 2020, as printed, be adopted.
Go ahead.
If I could note in those minutes, motion 201203-004 spoke to the reconstruction of East Bayshore Road respecting chip sealing. It mentions 26th Street East, but the slide presented at budget was 26th Street East and 28th Avenue East. I'm just wondering if that could be corrected to reflect properly in the minutes.
Okay. Okay, so with that, we good? Everyone in favor? So that is carried. In my rush to get going, I note that I missed number 5 in our agenda, which is a declaration of interest.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll be declaring an interest in item 12F, agenda title Riverfront Lots, as my wife is a partner in a business in the affected area.
Great, thank you. So we'll move then to number 7, which is the motion to move council into committee of the whole.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that City Council now move into Committee of the Whole to consider public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business.
And all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So we're now in Committee of the Whole. We have no public meetings. We have 2 deputations, I believe. Both of them involve me. The first one will be a video presentation. We met earlier this week, I guess at the end of last week, to meet with the volunteers of the year, and we have a video to present of that. So I'd like to welcome our honored guests and their nominators to our City of Owen Sound Volunteer of the Year recognition. This presentation is very different from years past or other years due to the COVID-19. We are recording in advance. We're very pleased to present the 2020 Youth Volunteer of the Year, the 2020 Volunteer of the Year, and the 2020 Senior of the Year awards. Our community would not be such an amazing place to live without all of the volunteers that make it all happen. So many citizens provide their time, their insight, and a helping hand, all while expecting very little in return. We recognize these award winners annually, but we certainly acknowledge the efforts of community volunteers, should recognize the efforts of community volunteers more often. We're fortunate to be able to recognize 3 of them here tonight. Joining me is Councillor Marion Kepke, Chair of the Community Services Committee. Our Member of Parliament, Alex Ruff, and Member of Provincial Parliament, Bill Walker, were both unable to attend this evening. They have sent along certificates of appreciation. So, I would like to start with the Youth Volunteer of the Year, Lauren Radburn. Lauren, if you want to come up and stand. A little closer. Ms. Radburn is an exceptional local athlete nominated by Kelly Wilkins on behalf of the Owen Sound Minor Lacrosse. Lauren is an inspirational person who is a great role model for young players. Described by her peers as a leader with calm demeanor who has exceptional communication skills. She is also seen as the future of the Owen Sound Minor Lacrosse Field Lacrosse organization. She referees, helps with training clinics, is an assistant coach, head coach, and a member of the executive. I personally know Lauren as a high school co-op student at a fitness center, where she is very able to lead others through workout programs with her skill, knowledge, and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of City Council, please join Councillor Kepke and I congratulating Lauren Radburn, City of Owen Sound's 2020 Youth Volunteer of the Year. So Lauren, I have some certificates here. I'll just wipe the mic and get out of the way. Is there anything you want to say? Come on up.
I would just like to thank the City of Owen Sound and Kelly Wilkins for nominating me. It's my pleasure and actually joy coaching the kids, and it's one of my favorite things to do in the day. So thank you very much.
These are from Bill Walker and Alex Ruff.
Thank you.
City, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It is so odd not shaking hands. Next, we recognize the recipient of this year's Volunteer of the Year Award, Liz Zetland. Ms. Zetland, if you could please come forward with your nominator. Welcome. Ms. Zetland is a City of Owen Sound resident, nominated by Marianne Alton on behalf of Climate Action Team Bruce Gray, Owen Sound. Well-recognized face in the community, Liz has been and continues to be an advocate for environmental issues such as relating to climate change, water watchers, and waste watchers. Liz is a poet herself and was instrumental in establishing the city's Poet Laureate program. I speculate that there are very few days passing without Liz performing some sort of volunteer activity relating to making Owen Sound and Grey Bruce a better place to live. She is a passionate artist and activist, highly successful in inspiring others to follow her lead and join in her journey. Former employee of the Tom Thompson Art Gallery, Liz spends the majority of her time volunteering, writing poetry, and also enjoys filmmaking. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Council, please join Councillor Kepke and I congratulating Ms. Zetland, City of Owen Sound's 2020 Volunteer of the Year. Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Boddy and Councillor Kepke. This really is a wonderful honor. And I'd like to thank Marianne Alton, who made the nomination, and other members of the Climate Action Team who helped put it together. I'm really proud to live in a city that not only recognizes the huge volunteer capacity and so many dedicated people in this city, but also recognizes volunteers that tackle the difficult, challenging issues of our time. And I couldn't not be up here and not mention climate change. So climate change is one of those issues. And I know from working for 3 years with scientist Dr. John Anderson to produce the Resilience Transforming Our Community film, that it's so important to engage the community, and that's what we've been working on. It's actually been almost 5 years now. The Climate Action Team would also like to applaud the directions that the city is taking with their updating the official plan with the themes of resilience, sustainability, and climate change lens on all decisions made. Cities like Owen Sound that recognize the importance of volunteers and their role in community engagement are cities that thrive. These cities know that volunteers can help mobilize their fellow citizens and participate in the democratic process, which is so important. And I would just like to share with you community mobilization that I was part of that I'm really proud of. And that started in May 2019 when the Resilience film premiered to a standing room only crowd at the Roxy. And since then, we have given, I'd say 25 groups or more have seen the film, have come together, have talked about it, and started talking about what they're going to do in terms of taking climate action. Also, there's about 8 community action teams that have formed in our region. They're now working with Grey County as well as among themselves and forming a climate action network. So this all began with one volunteer scientist asking one volunteer artist to join him and talk about how important it is to talk to each other. And we're just thrilled that over thousands of people have come together over this effort. I'd also like to say that volunteering is not just what you achieve, but it also is good for your heart and soul, especially now when we can't really come together so easily. And that it's a great place to make friends, to learn new things, and to have that joy that comes from doing something that you care about, other people care about, and you can make a difference. So, and I'd just like to say that I want to share this award with all those committed people that I've worked with for decades in the arts community and the First Nations, and also the rights of water, and also the, of course, the climate action team, which has been about the last 8 years of my life. So, and in closing, I would like to say that Owen Sound, as an anchor city for this region, and also a hub for the arts, which is really important, this is a great opportunity to lead in terms of climate change, sustainability, and resilience, so that we can all work together and that we can be a community where we want to live, work, and play, and thrive. So thanks so much for this opportunity.
Goes with you, and then we're still keeping our...
Wait a minute.
We're still keeping our distance.
Okay. Oh, the whole thing?
Okay.
Oh, that's lovely.
Certificates from Bill Walker and Alex Ruff as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Liz. Finally, we'd like to acknowledge this year's Senior of the Year, Fred Gebert. Now, I use the word finally for 2 reasons. Finally, because it's the third one of our presentations today, but also finally because we've been watching Fred's work for so many years and kept waiting for his organization to nominate him, and we're finally here, so we say finally. Fred is unable to join us here tonight and is represented by his son, Chris, who will be accepting this in Fred's behalf. Chris, if you want to come up. Oh. Fred has volunteered with the Sydenham Sportsmen Association for over 30 years. He is an integral contributor to Owen Sound Salmon Spectacular, looking after advertising, prizes, sponsor day festivities, award ceremonies, public relations, parking, correspondence with City of Owen Sound Fire Department, Owen Sound Police Services, the Grey Bruce Health Unit, etc. Plus arranging and chairing the meetings. And we know that he spends a lot of hours on Sunday mornings over several years at the hatchery with so many other volunteers that keep that hatchery going. Mr. Gebert has a background in scientific teaching, exceptional knowledge of fisheries and the outdoor in general. He was a very respected and popular teacher with his students. Described by his peers as an exceptional team player with an ability and a willingness to join with others, he inspires others to get things done while providing his experience and energy to the betterment of the environment. Fred has worked tirelessly for most of his life as a conservationist to better the local environment for this community and future generations. So I welcome Chris to represent his dad. Welcome.
Thanks, Mayor Ian, Buddy, and Mary, Andy for setting this stuff up, and Bill and John Ford for nominating my dad. It's really ironic that I go back to 1972 and I was in the same, I know it's newer, but I was in the same building with my dad. And we were here getting support for the fish hatchery in 1972. I was 9 years old, and now I'm here representing my dad, which is very ill and fighting cancer. And he would be tremendously honored with this award here tonight. And I can't thank you enough. My dad was a doer. He loved the Salmon Spectacular, loved the Sydenham Sportsman. If we weren't out picking up garbage and pitch in, we were out planting trees, stocking fish, or trying to promote the city at our many road shows that we've done over the years. He loved the city. With my mom, they settled in 1963 and raised 5 kids, Chris, Kelly, Carrie, Kim, and Craig. And it's just an amazing place. And he would be really honored to be here to accept the award, and I can't thank you enough. On behalf of my dad, Fred Kabert, I want to thank everyone.
So fish will look great on that board.
Thank you, guys.
We send our best wishes to Fred that is probably watching. We thank Chris for speaking. We thank all of our speakers today for coming and sharing why they volunteer and passing some information on. So in conclusion, on behalf of Council, I wish to thank all of you watching at home who volunteer, sharing your time and expertise to make Owen Sound a better place to live. We encourage everyone to pass along your appreciation and say thank you to not only our honored guests today, but to all volunteers throughout the city. Thank you. Good evening. On behalf of City Council, I'd like to... Twins going back a year. So again, we want to congratulate all the volunteers that were presented there. They really do accomplish a lot, and they really do it because of what they enjoy. So big thanks to all the volunteers in the community, and especially the 3 that were honored. Next on the agenda, I'm going to do a year-end report, which I've done just about every year. I think I'll get Deputy Mayor O'Leary to take the chair, and I'll go down to the other podium.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is item 9A, presentation from Mayor Body. Presentation from Mayor Body on 2020 year in review. Item 9D.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor O'Leary. I guess this is about the 6th time that I've done this, that we get to this last meeting of 2020. I'd like to go through and highlight some of the decisions, accomplishments, decisions we've made over 2020 or over the past year. This year, because of COVID, so many decisions have become blurred. So I asked staff for just a couple of items on their list to make sure I did not miss anything, and I got a list of 80 items, which isn't a surprise, but it's amazing what we as a city and staff get done in a year, and sometimes it becomes a blur. So I've tried to pare down that list of 80, and I think you'll find out that I failed. But I'll try and highlight some. Obviously, our biggest decisions this year were made in 2020. We're dealing with COVID-19. Many of our plans were put on hold. Mr. Simmons has a report in a couple of minutes which covers what the city has done in a little more detail. But in short, On Sound and Grey Bruce have done a pretty amazing job. Dr. Eyre and his staff got concise messages out very quickly to the community back in March, and the entire community reacted and followed it. Though the numbers have increased across Grey and Bruce over the last couple of weeks, we are certainly better than in this region than many regions across the province and across the country. I think our community deserves a big thank you for your buy-in, following those 3 W's, and respecting each other in the community. We know we've got a long way to go before we have to take off our masks and move forward, so let's keep it up. I was talking to somebody that had a friend that's come up here, had to isolate for 2 weeks from Michigan, and they were shocked that we were all wearing masks, that there was arrows in the grocery stores and that everybody was following them, that the carts were cleaned, and just the way we were treating each other was a surprise to them. So I think that's kudos to On Sound and to all of Grey Bruce. On the biggest changes here in the city of Owen Sound was Wayne Ritchie's retirement. He led us through some decisions over the past few years, some big decisions, and we appreciated it. We're fortunate to hire Tim Simmons right in the middle of COVID, which created challenges. Council and staff look forward to working with him in the coming years to make Owen Sound an even better place. Big issue in 2020 and continues to be and will continue to be is climate change. We've started and are nearing the completion of a climate change adaptation plan, which is how we're going to deal with the changes with more rain, with more runoff. That's happening here at the city. Meanwhile, we've continued the energy management program in buildings, and we'll continue with that. The county has funding, and has hired the best experts to help the entire county with a climate change mitigation plan. We will see this in 2021. This will provide the city and all the other lower tiers with a plan to get the goals we have to set, to get to the goals that we have already set. There will be recommendations to governments, to lower tier municipalities, as well as to citizens on how to cut down your footprint and reduce the greenhouse gases, etc. So it isn't going to be just for us, it's going to be for citizens to start to think about some of the things they're doing. Council has had a goal of growing the tax base, and this has continued. By doing this, we will be able to spread that tax burden over more properties and may be able to afford some of the services we don't have or collect a reduction or reduce taxes for each household. On that front, over the past few years, we've been successful bringing in lower tax increases while adding to our infrastructure deficit. Not adding to the deficit, but adding money to knock down that deficit. We can't cut taxes without cutting needed services we provide. But we can continue to try and bring in our taxes lower so that other municipalities catch up to us or bypass us in the amount of taxes that they're charging. We have been better than many of our neighbors in Grey Bruce on the last several years and with comparable municipalities across Ontario. This year will be no different. We're looking at a 1.9% increase for the taxpayers for 2021. I do note that one of the municipalities that is doing much better is the town of Blue Mountains. They've had enough new assessment growth that they are looking at a slight tax increase for 2021. That's exactly where we want to get to. That's what we've been working towards. We want to be like that. There's the goal. We want to have more development coming in so that we can start to see that reduction. This year, we started to see the development coming in as a result of streamlining procedures, investing in the infrastructure that we've done over the last number of years. This year, $65 million in new construction value in the city of Owen Sound has come in up to November 30th, which almost equals our best year of 2020 and is certainly the highest in the last 9 years. Last year was a really good year. This year's even better. I think at the end of the year it was 48 million last year. We're at 65. We've issued building permits for 108 new residential units, including the conversion of a former school to 80 residential units. We've got a long-term care home, and that construction has started on that site for Southbridge, a new retirement residence, and new apartment buildings for nonprofit housing at the Owen Sound Housing. Even with COVID interrupting business, we had 28 regular new business licenses, 5 home-based business licenses, 3 hawker licenses, 6 relocations of businesses, and 9 ownership changes. That is a little bit down from last year, but given the year that we've had where everything was shut down for 2 or 3 months, it's pretty amazing. To manage the growth that we want to attract, we continued the official plan update, new community improvement plan. We amended the development charges bylaw, approved the Greenwood Cemetery Master Plan. Even that, when you talk about hiring new people coming to live in Owen Sound, we've got to think about the cemetery as well. We've studied the courthouse precinct to try and learn more and figure out what we can do or should do with that property. We've added 2 new properties listed on the city's Heritage Register. Some of the Planning Act projects approved in 2020, so site plan approval for Heritage Grove commercial site build-out, site plan approval for Anpet East Court residential block, 7 seniors residences, and that site has already well on its way, and I've noticed yesterday that the foundations for some of the buildings are in. We've had site plan approval for a 7-unit townhouse development on 9th Avenue East, site plan approval for the build-out of Odawa Heights site with 60-unit apartment buildings. That building is in progress. Site plan approval for Scopus lot, site plan approval for Inglenook Crèche childcare facility, site plan approval for Greybrew's Vet Clinic, and that's started. Site plan approval for Gwendon 23-unit apartment building. We've had 20 minor variances and consents, and 5 facade grant applications approved. Some of these things I'm going to go through here are perhaps a little bit random, but still very significant accomplishments. We've commenced bus service to Guelph. We have bus service to Guelph. 3 years ago, did you think that was going to happen? At the county settled their interest in the land claim with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. This land claim must go back close to 30 years. And it was great to cooperate to find a way that isn't going to cost a lot of money, that everyone was satisfied, and to recognize that there was a claim. We approved the renaming of our bridge to Gitche Namiwikwadong, which will take place in a ceremony on National Indigenous Day on June 21st. So we look forward to that. We welcomed new director and chief curator, Aidan Ware, at the Tom Thompson Art Gallery. We also welcomed the Minister of Heritage, Sports and Tourism and Culture Industries, Lisa MacLeod, to visit the gallery on August 12th. By luck, we had to wait for Mr. Walker to come, who is tied up in another meeting, so Ms. MacLeod was in the gallery for an hour to 90 minutes, where she planned to be 20 minutes, and just loved the gallery, and it's great to have that opportunity. The gallery received substantial grant funding to hire an Indigenous outreach coordinator on an interim program. This position is working to develop partnerships with local Indigenous communities, organizations, and assist with the development of several major projects. The DIA has worked hard and continues with the downtown marketing, branding, or rebranding, and action strategy. Economic Development Committee approved the marketing program to recognize Owen Sound as the home office capital to start to go out to Ontario to attract new citizens. Accessibility improvements and upgrades took place at at Harrison Park Inn public washroom, at the Harrison Park Community Center, Westside Boat Launch washroom, and at the Art Gallery. Harrison Park Tot Lot playground replacement took place, which is also more accessible. Timber MacArthur playground replacement. So we've accomplished an awful lot, and I think, I don't know, did I forget anything? Oh, 10th Street Bridge, did anyone miss that one? So the 10th Street Bridge was replaced and was opened before Christmas as promised. So thanks to Dennis, certainly thanks to all the engineers involved, Luby's, paving company, Walkers, McDonnell's, there we go. So many companies involved that worked together to get that done during COVID, and in a sense, I feel sorry for the city engineers and the hired engineers, because we put them through their paces pretty good before we ever started and looked at every possible option that we could with that 10th Street Bridge before we agreed to go ahead with it. We're completing 16th Street East resurfacing, which included water main replacement. Kelso Park accessibility improvements took place, and of course we rebuilt the shoreline there to stop some of the erosion. 2020 asphalt resurfacing program, there's $300,000 in value completion. And so now that I'm kind of getting towards the end of the list, you're starting to say, so what did you cut, right? So out of 80 items, that's what I got it down to, just the really big ones. So I want to say in conclusion, from the Mayor's Chair, from me, I want to thank all of councillors for your representation of the community of Owen Sound during this challenging year. Working together, bringing each of our unique qualities makes us as a whole successful and makes our city successful. By working together and not against each other, we're accomplishing so much. On behalf of this council, the 9 of us together, we thank our city manager, Tim Simmons, his senior management team, Kate Allen, Pam Coulter, and Dennis Kafalis. We thank our clerks for keeping us on track and making us look good, sometimes under pressure when things are coming fast and we didn't see it coming. So thanks to Brianna Bloomfield, Jamie Eckensweiler, and of course all the in the clerks department. We thank all of our city staff whose dedication and skill we have the pleasure of seeing every day. We appreciate what you do. On behalf of all of council, to the citizens of Owen Sound, we are honored to represent you and thank you for your support. We appreciate when you send us notes and ideas and things that maybe we haven't thought about. We're always very proud of our community, and certainly the way our community looks after each other in challenging times. This year, more than ever, you have shown what makes Owen Sound a great place to live. So with that, look forward to saying goodbye to 2020 and look forward to bringing on 2021. Thanks. Thanks, Brian. Public question period. Did we get any questions? None? Okay. Correspondence received for which direction of council is required. We have none. So we're down to section 12, which are reports of city staff. Our agenda, starting off with the city manager's year-end overview of COVID. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to members of council. Again, thank you for the opportunity to bring the 2020 year-end overview report to you this evening and to our citizens and businesses. A few comments. Since the pandemic began, city staff have worked with our partners, and most notably the Grey Bruce Health Unit, without hesitation to navigate through the provincial guidelines as they related to Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3 over the course of late spring through early fall to achieve a safe reopening while protecting the public's health. And then when the province announced a new framework in early November that was built around the 5 colored zones of prevent, protect, restrict, control, and lockdown, staff again continued to work to make certain that Owen Sound was best equipped to manage and navigate these new health measures. So beyond the 3 W's, wash your hands, wear a mask, watch your distance, the report you have this evening focuses on the greatest asset we as a municipality have in our continued fight against COVID or with COVID-19, and that is our staff. I'd like to personally commend all of our employees for picking up the ball, so to speak, and pivoting from day one to ensure that we deliver the services that our citizens and businesses expect. In preparation of this report, it didn't really hit me until I began putting all of the information and highlights together with our senior leadership team, and I can tell you the report in itself could easily have been doubled in length with the information that was sent to me. We've tried to capture as much as we could in those highlights, but what hit me is that throughout the year, through COVID-19, our staff really stepped up. I cannot think of a single time that when a challenge presented itself, a solution was not found. In March, the mayor issuing a state of emergency and the staff moving without hesitation to close facilities and communicate with the public. Then the Harry Lumley Bayshore Arena converted to a critical piece of health infrastructure as a field hospital for Grey and Bruce counties and beyond. It's still operating in that mode today, although we haven't had to use it, and we hope we don't have to. It's there and ready to use. Owen Sound was the first municipality to achieve a full return to work and begin the use of city recreation facilities in Grey County, and one of the first in the province, I'd like to say. We were also one of the first municipalities to have council return as a full council to make its decisions here at the council chamber. Our parks and recreation facilities and programs opened up with safety measures in place. Events were planned and hosted, music at the market, and most recently, the 100-year celebration via fireworks at Victoria Park. Waste management continued garbage and recycling pickup without any interruptions in service, and compost services were maintained throughout the pandemic. Transit services were maintained with limitations throughout the pandemic. A complete winter control operation was planned for during the past several months, and as of December 1st, became operational. Communication and marketing efforts throughout the pandemic continue to promote Owen Sound as the place you want to live and visit. Supporting businesses in the reopening process through marketing and promotion, instilling consumer confidence and business support happened via the events team here. Planning continued to process building permits and applications. And throughout all of this, our city's sound financial management practices remain committed to prioritizing service and financial excellence. Council, to say the least, this has been a challenging year. We as the administration want to thank you for your leadership throughout. Sometimes it may appear that decisions are easy, but we certainly realize they never are. In closing, I'd like to thank Dr. Ian Era, Chief Executive Officer for the Grey Bruce Health Unit, for his tireless support of the administration and the community. And I'd also like to thank the members of our emergency control group that has met every week throughout the pandemic to strategize, exchange information, and prioritize. Heidi Jennen, Fire Chief Doug Barfoot, Police Chief Craig Ambrose, our Operations Section Chief Dennis Cathalis, our Planning Section Chief Pam Coulter, our Logistics Section Chief Kate Allen, Nellie Morrow, Melissa Clancy, Brent Fisher, Mark Giberson, our Manager of IT, our Clerk Brianna Bloomfield. I also want to acknowledge the support staff who attended the EOC meetings, our Manager of Property, Kristen Schreider, our Safety Officer, Misha Soon, our Public Health Representative, Robert Reed, our Operations Section Chief Alternate, Matt Prentice, from the Library, Tim Nichols-Harrison, from the Art Gallery, Aidan Ware, and from Facilities, Ryan Gowan. And with that, we're open for any questions you'd like.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Marion.
No questions particularly, but thank you very much for that review, and thank you to all the staff that put so many conscious decisions into place for the citizens of Owen Sound. And with that, I'd like to move receipt of the report.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Again, thank you on behalf of council and all of us to Tim and Wayne before Tim that certainly started this. Heidi and everybody. It's been long, several months, but it's going to continue. Thank you. Next, I think we're back to you, Tim, with regard to the enhanced neighborhood safety update.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, to council. This is our enhanced neighborhood safety update number 3, dealing with a hotspot here in the city. The report recommendation is that we maintain the hotspot status identified back in September until further notice, and that we request that overnight monitoring shifts continue as directed by myself as city manager with your approval. Throughout the process, since September, we have alternated an every night with overnight bylaw presence. We've also gone to a more random approach. We have experienced some gains in the area. We haven't gotten to where we feel we need to be yet with the hotspot. Thus, the recommendation of the report is to continue into the new year. However, working with the police, Owen Sound Police Services more closely and our bylaw service team, we again want to emphasize that we feel as though gains have happened. There have been some more recent incidences, though, that have pushed us to the recommendations that are before you tonight.
Thank you. Questions, comments, motions? Travis?
Thank you, Worship. I'd move the recommendation.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks. Next, from Mr. Kafalis with regard to stopping on 10th Street, or no stopping.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Your Worship. As many people know, that part of installing the detour for the replacement of the 10th Street Bridge, we had to remove parking along several sections of road. In an effort to try and recover some of that parking, we did install parking along 10th Street between 10th Street East, between 2nd Avenue East and 3rd Avenue East to help try and recover a few spots. Now with the bridge being put back in commission and finally opening up, we have to remove that parking and put the no stopping signs back in place. As such, we have to make a change to the bylaw. So the recommendation from staff is that in consideration of staff report OP 20-047 respecting amend traffic bylaw 2009-075 as amended to reinstate no parking, no stopping on 10th Street East. City Council, 1, receives the report for information purposes. 2, authorizes staff to bring forward a bylaw to amend bylaw 2019-170, an amendment of bylaw 2009-075 to delete 10th Street East, both sides, 2nd Avenue East to 3rd Avenue East, and to eliminate parking both sides, 2nd Avenue East to 3rd Avenue East, and Schedule 4, complimentary 2-hour parking Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Great, thank you. Councillor Hamley.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, but I have some comments. We opened the 10th Street Bridge on Friday, as you had mentioned, and that was great. But I was standing with Councillor Gregg and Deputy Mayor O'Leary on the south side of the bridge, and it took about 10 seconds flat for traffic to back up onto the bridge already. And we can probably certainly chalk that up to the novelty of driving over a new bridge. But I'm sure I wasn't the only councillor who received comments from residents over the weekend about traffic on the bridge. So I think it is important for residents to note that in January, when we hopefully approve our budget, we'll be moving forward with a traffic management plan in 2021, not only on the 10th Street corridor, but through the whole of the downtown core, leveraging the latest technology in traffic control hardware and software, timing and programming, as well as vehicle detection systems. So, Your Worship, I just wanted to make sure that I noted that for residents who are watching, and that's something to look forward to in 2021.
Great, thank you. And you moved it. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Gregg, go ahead.
Through the mayor, I just have to add, I don't hesitate to tell the honest truth to people at times. Traffic does back up. It's just the way it is. We've got a really unique situation here in Owen Sound. It's a natural constraint, and things aren't always perfect. At times, that's the way it is. But we did have a detour system that worked fabulously for 13 months, and I heard it more than once from individuals who had a little bit of nostalgia when they actually parked again during that period of time on 10th Street. It brought back some old memories. But everything won't always just flow absolutely perfect. There's sometimes you have to expect delays.
Great, thanks. Others? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. So we're at 12D. Which I think, Jamie, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. The 2021 public vacancies were determined through the board and committee bylaw. Vacancies were advertised and application material was reviewed in closed session on November 30th. During closed session, council directed that staff bring forward a report recommending certain applicants for certain boards and committees and for certain terms. There are some individuals being recommended for reappointment that are subject to the sunset clause, which means they have been on a committee for longer than 6 consecutive years. Part of the recommendation in the report is to waive the sunset clause for those individuals. I will note that vacancies remain on the Committee of Adjustment and the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee. As council has elected to remain on the board and committees to which they were appointed in February 2020, the only outstanding matter is the appointment of a member of council to the Owen Sound Police Services Board for a 2-year term, as the current 2-year term is coming to an end. The nomination process was attached to this report, and council is requested to select a member at this meeting using the nomination process. The appointment will be effective February 1st, 2021, and will be made through the 2021 Board and Committee bylaw, which will come forward for approval in January 2021. The recommendation listed for approval on the report is to waive the sunset clause for various individuals, direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to appoint certain public members to boards and committees for specified terms as noted in Schedule A to the report, and direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to appoint the member of council chosen through the nomination process to the Owen Sound Police Services Board with the term beginning February 2021 and ending with the term of council. And with that, Your Worship, I will take any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Tamming, go ahead.
I have no questions, but I'm happy to move all 5 recommendations, and I wish to thank the Deputy Clerk. I just have a comment as well, but I don't know if there's questions. I just want to say that Jamie did great work of advertising these positions. We're still a little light in terms of the number of applicants. It's a lot of fun, frankly, and it's very intellectually satisfying to serve on these committees. If you're a member of the community, I urge you, if anything tweaks your interest on any of the committees, feel free to roll up your sleeves, still for the TOM and for the Committee of Adjustment. It's a great way of serving the city, and it really builds collegiality with councillors. So if anybody's on the fence, make some phone calls, ask some questions, and I'm sincerely hoping that those last 2 committees can get staffed.
So I'm thinking just before we move those, looking at number 5 there, Councillor Tamming, I think we have to pick out the person that's going to be appointed to the 2-year term before we move all of them, unless we moved 4 of them and left that one open, but whichever.
I'm happy just to move the first 4 recommendations.
Okay, so first 4 are moved. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. So getting to number 5, oh, you just moved it on me. That's okay. Getting to that number 5 on there, where we are going to pick someone to sit for 2 years beginning February 2021 to be on the Police Services Board. I ask if there are any nominations. Councillor Thomas?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to nominate Councillor Tamming for this position. He's demonstrated over the past 2 years on council that he has a keen interest in police services and their operations. And I think that if he were to consent to take this position, he would represent us well as a council.
Thank you. And Councillor Tamming, would you accept that nomination?
I'd be honored to accept, and I thank Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I nominate Councillor Kepke.
And Councillor Kepke, are you willing to stand?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? So I'm seeing no hands going up, so I will declare that nominations are closed. So we have 2 candidates. We are going to call for a show of hands in favor of the nominees, and I will do it alphabetical. So the first one is Councillor Kepke with a K. Please show your hands if you're in favor of electing Councillor Kepke to that position. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Would it be helpful if I asked for a recorded vote, Your Worship?
No, because it's not weighted. I'll do this publicly. I pretty well have to vote on the first before I vote in the second, one way or the other. Okay. Thank you. I will pass on this one. So then the next one I'm calling is a show of hands for Councillor Tamming. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will vote for that one, so that's 5. So Councillor Tamming is therefore going on to the police board, so I guess we've got to go back to that number 5. So somebody needs to suggest somebody different than Councillor Tamming since he's the nominee. Someone wants to move that recommendation number 5. Councillor Thomas.
So moved.
Okay. And so I'm calling the question on that number 5. All in favor? That is carried. So 12E, with regard to an encroachment application. Oh, you've got it? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. The city has received 2 encroachment applications respecting a municipal lane that runs between 2 properties located at 298 and 313th Street West. The application from 298 is for 2 parking stalls and an existing fence, and the application from 313th Street West is for 2 parking stalls and an existing shed. The encroachments do not affect the integrity of the main buildings and therefore meet the requirements of a limited encroachment agreement, meaning that the encroachments may continue provided that the city may request their removal on 6 months' notice to the owner. Staff have reviewed the applications and there were no concerns with the request from 298 13th Street West for the fence and parking stalls. For 1300 13th Street West, staff are recommending that the existing fence that abuts the municipal lane be relocated to the west so that there is a 2.3 meter separation between the adjacent parking stalls. Staff also recommend that to comply with the zoning requirements, a minor variance be applied for respecting the existing shed or that the shed be removed. Street parking has come to an end for the winter season and a minor variance process will take some time. To assist the applicant at 313th Street West, staff recommend a temporary encroachment agreement that is 6 months in length. This will allow the applicant to park for the current winter season and provide time for the minor variance application to be submitted and considered. Once the fence and shed have been addressed in the spring, a limited encroachment agreement would be executed. The resolution in the report is to direct staff to bring forward a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a limited encroachment agreement with a 6-month notice provision between the city and Simon Chang and G. Lee respecting the encroachment of a fence and 2 parking stalls onto a municipal lane. Bring forward a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a temporary encroachment agreement for a duration of 6 months between the city and Maureen Britton respecting the encroachment of a shed and 2 parking stalls onto a municipal lane. And bring forward a bylaw authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute a limited encroachment agreement with a 6-month notice provision between the city and Maureen Britton respecting the encroachment of a shed and 2 parking stalls onto a municipal lane, following the provision of proof to the satisfaction of the city that the fence abutting the municipal lane has been relocated to the west such that a 2.3 meter separation between adjacent parking stalls is achieved, and proof to the satisfaction of the city that the shed does not violate the city's zoning bylaw either through removal of the shed or the granting of a minor variance.
Great, thank you. Councillor Gregg, were you?
I actually have a couple questions on this. I'm not sure if you want a motion on the floor before asking, but one of them is to educate me, and then I have a question on the granting of the minor variance. If I could ask those this time then.
Okay.
Actually, it was just a question that came to me in looking at this encroachment agreement. What actually defines a parking stall? Because the requirements of an individual driving a 350 dually is dramatically different than somebody that's got a motorcycle or a 4-door Toyota Corolla. And I'm just wondering, what is the definition and where's it come from? Or is it something that's just old legislation that was made in 1988 and...
Through you, Your Worship, the size of the parking stalls are as established in the city zoning bylaw.
So is that something that the municipalities have control on defining then? Okay. Okay, that's good to know going forward. A question on the granting of the minor variance in the shed. If they got a variance, it appears in the drawing that it's right in the road allowance. Would that become then a fixture that remains in the road allowance? We have road allowances throughout the city that if it stopped access, would we then consider just selling the remaining road allowance?
Go back to Pam again.
Through you, Your Worship, the issue of the minor variance would only allow the shed, which under the zoning bylaw requires a 0.9 meter setback from the individual's lot line. The variance would allow the shed to go to 0. The encroachment agreement, which is before council this evening, would allow a portion of the shed to be actually on the right-of-way. So it kind of needs both of those pieces to work together in order for the shed to stay there. And as I understand from the clerk, it would be a 6-month encroachment, so it wouldn't be a permanent encroachment, and the city could require that it be moved.
Okay. And the city could require it be moved even if they got the variance down the road then? Okay.
Someone want to move it? Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Thanks, Brianna. Ms. Coulter, Director of Community Services, Riverfront Lots.
Thank you, Worship. The implementation of Phase 1 of the Downtown River Precinct has really set a positive climate for redevelopment in the downtown. As per the master plan, communities prosper when places are livable and people enjoy being there. The municipal class environmental assessment was improved for the overall plan for the Downtown River Precinct, and it's to be kind of implemented in 4 phases. In 2021, Council has in your draft budget funds for the engineering and urban design for Phase 2, which has been identified as a 900 block of First Avenue East. There's 2 key factors. In order to move forward, we need to first address the Crown patent. There's 2 key factors that really underpin how that can go forward. So the city, according to the patent, is to hold the lands in trust, and this requires the city to lease parts of the river frontage, and the clerk has the map up on the screen. So these are the lands that are west of First Avenue East, between the west side of First Avenue East and the river. So we have to lease the parts of the river frontage to the owners of property fronting on the west side of 2nd Avenue East. So generally, for each of the properties that sort of stands alone, there's a reciprocal property on 2nd Avenue East that has those lease rights. The city is entitled under the patent to terminate the leases only if it considers necessary or advisable to extend the channel of the river upstream. So the trust implies an obligation to provide the lands to the lessee if the city determines the expansion of the harbor will not occur. The trust does not provide that the city has any other entitlement to the lands. Because the lands are governed by the trust, it's the opinion of the city solicitor that in this case the city land sale bylaw does not apply and that the trust governs. So we'll be looking for a recommendation of council to confirm that. So given the construction of the 10th Street Bridge, the physical constraints and the costs, it's unlikely that the city would ever extend the harbor south of the current 10th Street Bridge. A resolution of council stating that the lands are not required for harbor purposes is really the first step in moving this forward. Then the city solicitor will undertake a title search to sort out or confirm the benefiting property. So generally, as I've described, it's the property owner with the building on 2nd Avenue that has the right to those river lots. But I would say there are sometimes some exceptions. And there's some of those lots that actually have buildings on them. So it also will require for each of the lots to be transferred a legal description acceptable to the land register. Because this will enhance the owner or the benefiting party's title, we're recommending that council set a flat charge of $1,200 as the entire fee for that transfer. We would communicate to those individuals that when we get in touch with them. So, Your Worship, we would ask that council approve the process to begin the transfer of the subject lands as outlined in the report, that you would require each benefiting party to pay for the preparation of the legal description and transfer for up to a maximum of $1,200, and that you would ask staff to bring forward a bylaw to declare the lands are not needed for harbor purposes currently or in the future, effectively collapsing the trust. You would authorize the mayor and clerk to sign all the documents necessary to collapse the trust in relation to the subject lands and transfer the lands, and you would declare that the city's disposition of land bylaw does not apply in this instance.
Someone want to move that? Councillor Gregg?
I would move the all components and recommendations. When it was speaking about it being needed for inner harbor purposes, I remember reading you had to have a depth of 12 feet, I think it was, beyond the low water mark even. There's just, I mean, beyond a bridge, there was practicalities that weren't even coming into consideration here. It's become almost a distant memory for some, but a lot of this avenue was just consumed by railroad traffic at one point in time. That was its purpose of separating the properties. So the railways left to the history books and to the wonderful museum on 1st Avenue West to recall that. But we're moving forward here, and this is the first step of starting a project which even on Friday I was hearing from some residents asking when the city was looking at moving forward on this project. So this is step one, and I'm happy to move the recommendations within.
Thank you. Some of us remember that train. Does anyone else have a question? Pam, I've got a question. Number 2, it talks about the preparation of a legal description, but each of these lots appear on the plan to have a property identification number, which would be a registry office, what we call PIN, which would suggest that there's already a description, although I suppose it might be in registry, not in titles. Do you know?
Through Your Worship, I think that's the issue. Working with Mr. Robinson, he had suggested that a legal description would need to be prepared. So,
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. So Councillor Thomas can come back in. I think we're back to you, Pam, with regard to rural economic development funding.
thank you, Your Worship. This is sort of a housekeeping report. In March of 2020, Council received a grant for $18,000 from the Rural Economic Development Fund through OMAFRA. We're just asking that you would authorize a bylaw to amend the contribution agreement so that the work would finish March 31st, 2021. The locates are complete, and there were some delays due to COVID, but it's getting underway now.
Councillor Dodd?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move the recommendation.
Deputy Mayor O'Leary with regard to Grey County Council and the Board of Health.
Thank you, Your Worship. Grey County report. Council approved a memorandum of understanding to accept donated land from Everett and Maryland Hall. The property will be the home for regional agricultural learning and demonstration site next to Grey Roots, operated by the Chatsworth and Owen Sound Agricultural Societies. Grey County will complete a regional airport study of the Wyerton-Keppel International Airport. The study will determine investment opportunities for the airport as a regional asset and will explore how it could become financially stable. Council heard a delegation about the Clean Energy Frontier Program, a successor to the Nuclear Economic Development and Innovation Initiative. This program aims to highlight the important role Grey, Bruce, and Huron counties will play in achieving a net zero economy and clean energy future in Ontario through the production of nuclear energy at Bruce Power. Chad Richards, director of the program, asked Council to consider passing a resolution to become a part of Canada's Clean Energy Frontier. Staff will bring a report to a future meeting. Council supported updates to the development charges bylaw that will provide exemptions for purpose-built affordable housing. The charges will encourage more rental housing, non-profit housing, and detached dwelling units that are affordable. And the Owen Sound Police Services have recently made investments in their technology to offer next-generation 911 services. These enhanced services will improve the speed and accuracy of dispatching calls. Grey County is responsible for providing 911 services in our area and will discuss a new contract with the Owen Sound Police Services. That's the Grey County report. The health unit, as of December 13th, 2020, in Grey and Bruce counties, a total of 400 cases to date, 32 active, 199 high-risk contacts associated with active cases. 3 cases currently hospitalized, 0 deaths, and 1 facility in COVID-19 outbreak, 0 schools in outbreak, 0 daycares in outbreak. Concerning trends, significant increase in the number of cases locally and provincially, leveling the number of cases locally. However, the numbers remain higher than baseline over the summer and the fall. Schools in Grey and Bruce successfully managing multiple investigations related to cases in schools with no evidence of transmission within school related to these cases. Proposal for COVID-19 vaccine distribution in Grey, Bruce, and messaging. COVID-19 vaccine rollout pilot in Grey and Bruce counties was submitted to General Hillier and Dr. Williams. Communication to address COVID fatigue. There's been several media releases and media interviews. Ongoing actions taken by Grey Bruce Health Unit, receive and review reopening plans for locations closed due to COVID-19, including inspections as required. Board of Health Unit Infectious Disease Team continue with case and contact management, reporting and responding to COVID-19 related calls. Contract tracing exceeds provincial targets with 100% of all cases contacted within 24 hours. The Grey Bruce Health Unit team continue to ensure essential public health activities not related to COVID-19. And with that, Your Worship, I would move approval of both those reports.
Great, thank you. Questions?
I just wanted to ask a quick question of the Deputy Mayor, through Your Worship, about the regional airport study that Grey County is undertaking. I wonder if there's been discussion about including our airport in that study. There is, in fact, more than one airport in Grey. And, you know, I think that, to be fair, if they're going to look at airports in Grey, they should be looking at our airport as well to see the role that it plays within the county structure.
Well, that wasn't talked about, but we could certainly bring that up when it comes back for discussion. I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
My recollection was, from my understanding, was that they were looking at all the region for airport, not just one, but they would be looking at it, but I don't know to what degree, but that's something we will have to clarify. Any further questions? Seeing none. So this is to receive the report from the Deputy Mayor. All in favor? That is carried. So we're down to 13, which is the consent agenda.
Moved by myself that City Council receives items 13A to 13L on the consent agenda dated December 14th, 2020, and further...
Okay, just to hold, we're going to get them read first.
Well, but I've got, and further, that the recommendations contained in reports 13A to 13B be approved.
Just hold on, Bran, if you could read us the reports.
Through
Just doing it in order.
your worship, on the consent agenda this evening is 2 reports from the junior planner respecting comments on a Georgian Bluffs proposed plan of subdivision and on a proposed plan of condominium in Meaford. There's a memo from the junior planner on external planning policy comments for October and November. There are minutes for receipt from the DIA Board, Owen Sound Housing Company, Owen Sound Municipal Nonprofit Housing Corporation, and the Police Board. Business licenses were issued for Tasha's Hair Salon, located at 1389 16th Avenue East, Matthews Salon at 817 2nd Ave East, and Smart Style Salon at 1555 18th Avenue East. Lastly, the information package is available at 13L.
Great, thank you. Now back to you, Councillor Hamblin. Go ahead.
Moved by myself that City Council receives items 13A to 13L on the consent agenda dated December 14th, 2020, and further that the recommendations contained in reports 13A to 13B be approved.
There you go. Thank you. I think there's a question before we move ahead with that.
Just wondering through the mayor if we could vote on items 13A and 13B separate on the consent agenda from the others?
Councillor Hamley, you're good with that motion to move C through to L then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. So I'll call that question. So we're approving. Gee, I've only been doing this for 6 years. Receiving the reports from 13C through to 13L. All in favor? That's carried. Now if we can go back to 12A. So it hasn't been moved. So to you, Councillor Gregg.
I'd just like to speak to that. Items 13A and 13B, I will be voting against that. I've spoken on this in the past. I don't think this is within the city's purview. It's provincial policy that we have jurisdiction over planning issues within 1 kilometer of our boundaries. So whether it's 5 kilometers or 8 kilometers or 12 kilometers, for example, the city of Guelph does not comment on developments in Aberfoyle. I just don't see this as consuming city taxpayer resources in a reasonable way. I think it's not something that we need to have a role in. People will build and choose to live where they want to choose to live. My role as a city councillor is to convince people to live in Owen Sound. And I don't think that these reports further the interest in me achieving that. So I was just going to vote against items 13A and 13B.
Okay, with that, I think we probably just created more confusion than anyone that's watching. So I will ask somebody to move 13A. I will ask somebody, Councillor Thomas, please go ahead.
I'll move it, Your Worship.
Okay, so Ms. Coulter, are you able, we're sandbagging you here without any warning, are you able to give us a bit of a verbal explanation of what we're talking about in that report?
Both the applications, one in Georgian Bluffs and one in Meaford, have a lot of similarities. And the provincial policy statement really does identify and direct growth to settlement areas. The Meaford proposal is outside a settlement area. The Georgian Bluffs one is in that inland lakes and shoreline designation. The PPS really encourages development that's appropriate and uses infrastructure efficiently, public services, facilities, minimize negative impacts, prepare for the impacts of changing climate, and are supportive of transit and active transportation. Those policies are really reflected in the Grey County official plan. In both cases, I think staff feel that this development may not be in the best long-term interests in terms of either they being on private services or on partial services, meaning that there's an extension of the East Linton water system and on-site septic system. So, Your Worship, the city has a policy by which staff are required to provide you a report when certain triggers are met. In both of these cases, a report was required. So in particular, I would say the application in Meaford, the servicing option study specifically doesn't look at the long-term, the cumulative impact of the proposed servicing method. In fact, the study specifically mentions that it does not look at that. So that's a brief summary of both of those applications. So they would just ask that, that this report be provided to both the county and to the ministry as the city's comments. As you're aware, if the city wanted to provide further comment, the written record is what's important.
Great, thank you. So that is moved, or the A is, which is just the Georgian Bluffs land. So other questions? Councillor Thomas?
I don't have a question, Your Worship, but I do want to make a comment on this. You know, I understand where Councillor Gregg is coming from, and I just want to comment because I think that is a view shared within our community. You know, I may have had that same viewpoint prior to serving on council. My viewpoint has changed, however, because I would say that as taxpayers in Owen Sound, we should be keenly in support of staff commenting on these small developments that are going on around the city of Owen Sound. There is no greater challenge for the city now than serving the needs of people who are not paying taxes in this city. And as long as these small developments continue going on around us, the pressure will grow on the individual taxpayers in the city of Owen Sound to foot the bill for the people living in these small subdivisions in municipalities surrounding Owen Sound. And Councillor Gregg, you got to admit that that is a serious problem for the city of Owen Sound. We had a presentation from the police chief during our budget 2 weeks ago. The population of Owen Sound goes from 22,000 to 41,000 every single day. And 22,000 are paying for that. And 22,000 are going to continue paying for that until we find a way as a municipality to deal with that. So I think we have to dig our heels in and we have to comment on every single one of these small developments that are going on around us that are going to put a strain on our infrastructure in Owen Sound. Sorry, I get very passionate about this because it is something that really, until I became a member of this council, I wasn't aware just how significant the challenge was for the city. So that's my comments.
Others? Councillor Tamming, go ahead.
I am really in the middle on this one in particular. I appreciate absolutely what Richard or Councillor Thomas is saying. I'm not a big fan of 50, 60, 20 homes clustered together, whether it's in Jackson, Kilsyth, or wherever. But I'm wondering, and I communicated with the director earlier today, I'm wondering if we're exercising the kind of discretion we should be. So my friend, not my friend, sorry, I'm not in court, my fellow councillor, Mr. Thomas, calls it a subdivision. So let's be clear, because I'm not sure people on TV know what we're talking about. There's a very large lot left at Balmy Beach. I think it's singular in nature, it's on the water, and the proposal is to divide it into 6 lots, 6 houses. That's it in a nutshell. To me, it almost feels like a proper infill to talk about filling those 6 lots up with, or those lots up with 6 houses. Because after all, if you start your car at Old Balmy Beach or by the Indian River store and take that all the way to Cobble Beach, you're probably passing, I haven't added them up, I suspect 200 houses on the waterfront and an equal amount on the other side. So I think it's passing strange to call just a small sliver of that for 6 lots a subdivision. I have problems with the designation, and I don't think I'll support Councillor Gregg on this, but I am sympathetic to the fact that are we exercising the proper discretion all the time? 6 houses versus 40 or 50 at Kilsyth, I see a distinction.
Others? Hearing from no others. So I will call that question. So that is to approve the recommendation as stated. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed, 1. Okay, so Councillor Thomas, I'll get you to go to 13B and move it as well.
So moved.
Okay. Any further discussion on that one? It's sort of the same idea. duplicate. I'll call the question. All in favor? So that is carried with one opposed. So that gets us through our staff reports. Thanks, Pam. We didn't really warn you that that was coming, but I see there's a DIA report.
Thank you, Worship. November 25th meeting, DIA. We had a presentation from Jean Paul Caron from Citizens on Patrol regarding the work they do around town in collaboration with the Owen Sound Police. Their group is made up of volunteers who divide the city into 7 zones and do their part in reducing crime in the city. A lot of their work is in the downtown core, and the DIA donate $1,000 towards that organization. We had a presentation from BC Hughes regarding the marketing, branding, and action plan for our new name. Moving forward, the downtown core will be named the River District. Details of the promotion and branding of the new name will come out at a future meeting. And the Manager of Community Development and Marketing provided a verbal report and presentation on holiday marketing and winter events. Mr. Fisher highlighted hashtag Shop Owen Sound Holiday Passport that shoppers can pick up for a chance to win $750 worth of gift certificates by shopping at participating stores. The Holiday Passport campaign is part of a larger initiative that was designed to remind shoppers that there is an alternative method to shopping online. The marketing campaign encourages shoppers to shop locally and shop small businesses. Mr. Fisher noted that hashtag Shop Owen Sound campaign is being promoted on the radio and online through the use of videos and social media, adding that it is a significant investment using creative formats to effectively convey the message. Thank you, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. I noticed we've got 4 sets of minutes from the Owen Sound Housing Corporations. Go ahead.
Through your worship. So the minutes, I would like to just add some summarizing comments to incorporate all of those minutes for receipt by the council. So addressing 13E to 13H inclusive, in summary, of particular note, just as in other sectors that we have heard about, the insurance premium for the nonprofit has increased by 20.7%, at a time when there is a freeze on actually raising those rents. The board has approved the action of a letter from our board chair, Ruth Lovell-Sanders, to be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing to identify the concerns regarding the insurance increase and the budgetary stressors to the affordable housing and nonprofit that arise as a result. So I'll just, I'm certainly willing to answer any questions, but just am addressing those particular concerns.
Great, thank you. Any questions? I think you're off the hook. Next, we have 2 sets of minutes from Police Board. Marion?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll address comments from both committee meetings at the same time. There was discussion about the Community Safety Officers Department activities, and it was noted that community policing is a proactive approach to community focus, which is not a full area of focus by OPP. Currently, Owen Sound Police Services, OPP, and one other private company are NG 911 compliant and have completed the transfer test for public safety agencies across Canada. The Cufflinks Golf Tournament was held, netting $3,000 for the REACH program. The province has announced funding dedicated to mental health and addiction. Service of population for dispatch was noted to be over 300,000. Members discussed the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. Our provincial liaison commented on the new Police Act, noting that it has received royal assent. However, proclamation will not take place until well into 2021, when the 50 to 70 regulations have been written. It was noted that Owen Sound Police Service is cooperating with OPP to assist with calls when needed, as OPP are currently under-policed and unavailable to provide the services required in our periphery areas of Georgian Bluff and Meaford in the Leith area. So along with the statistics provided in the minutes, that concludes the highlights of the September and October meetings.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none. So with that, we are through the consent agenda. We're at number 14, which are committee minutes, starting with Accessibility Committee held on November 30th.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a few things to report. Of note, there was a bit of a mix-up with the minutes. So items 6A and 6B, the motions that were passed are not in this set of minutes, but they'll be updated by the clerk's office tomorrow morning. They were the approval of the accessibility features of the Gwendon Apartments at 1723 8th Avenue East. And the committee had also requested staff create and use a site plan checklist for accessibility with the goal of streamlining that process. And so I would move those minutes, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Next is Corporate Services from November 26th.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to go through these minutes. Some of this information has already been presented in the past by the City Manager's report, but we had a report regarding our Q3 financial update. That's up until the end of September. Currently at that point, the city was estimating a deficit position of around $330,000. However, we also applied to the Phase 2 Safe Restart grant from the province for $220,000, which had end up leaving us with a deficit down to $110,000. This deficit that happens annually goes through, deficit or surpluses, are all funded back through the tax stabilization reserve that we have within the city to ensure that no amount is carried forward to impact future years' taxation. For those watching at home, a tax stabilization reserve is when you have a surplus or a deficit off every annual budget or year. And then if you have a surplus, it goes into the fund. If you have a deficit, it pulls from that fund. It's just a way to make sure that each year we don't have a crazy winter, and then the next thing you know, you have to play catch up. So we also got a report regarding the vacancy rebate reform. As you're all aware, this will be something that will be coming back to committee and council in the near future, as the 10th Street Bridge has now been completed. However, we also did get an update from the Manager of Revenue that there's going to be more of a detailed report come through committee in 2021 ahead of the new tax policy, and that is because the new proposed 2020 provincial budget has introduced different options that may impact overall council's decision. There's been things that have changed within the tax policy provincially, and some things may change on whether that vacancy rebate still exists in the future years, or how it's going to be applied. So there will be a future report to that, so I won't steal the thunder of that one, because that's going to be a doozy when it comes. We've also got a report from the Manager of Information Technology regarding the technology needs assessment. This was just more of a received for information purposes. Back in 2018, the city received a modernization grant for about $650,000. Things that would have meant to do, where we were talking about how do you enhance your technology, basically. So we received this report regarding from the Manager of Information Technology that noted that the city's systems have been in place since the early 2000s, and there's been no needs assessment done since that time. That's like basically having a huge operation that's running all your behind-the-scenes thing and not having a strat plan to know how do they actually correspond and work together. So you're just basically piling different programs on top and hoping that they like each other and hold hands. We also got a piece of information regarding our insurance renewal. As everyone is aware, this was something that Council discussed over a month or so ago regarding what was being faced in our local business community. Now, as you heard from Councillor Murn, we're seeing it in our nonprofit sector, and of course we're going to be seeing it in the municipal sector as well. Through great deliberations and discussions with our staff and our insurer, they were able to bring down our annual increase to 19%. Still a big jump, but it's doing better than what we're seeing in other sectors within our community. And with that, Your Worship, I'd move approval of these minutes.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. What's next? Tom Thompson Art Gallery Committee meeting. John?
Thank you, Your Worship. On behalf of the Art Gallery Advisory Committee, We had a very short meeting. There wasn't that much covered, except there is a motion, a notice of motion to be considered 2 weeks from now that flows out of that. I would just encourage people to remember prior to Christmas our big calendar push. Gorgeous calendars from the Tom, featuring the group of 7. It's a fundraiser, but it's also a way of reconnecting our community with our gallery, or strengthening those bonds, so I urge that. On another positive note, we have an excellent applicant for a position that involves reach out to our Indigenous neighbors and friends and partners, and that's been one of the key mandates that Aidan has embraced, our curator, vigorously, is she wishes to see a much more robust connection with the diverse communities surrounding Owen Sound, including our Aboriginal neighbors. So we're very excited to have the possibility of a staff member on in terms of that. The notice of motion, I guess, Your Worship, or Mr. Chairman, would be heard later. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, thank you. So that concludes my report. Thank you. I would move that it be accepted.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Kepke?
Just a clarification, you noted that there is a notice of motion in the minutes. I don't see anything recorded in the minutes that relates to a notice of motion.
Could ask the clerk to clarify that.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Kepke, Councillor Tamming will be bringing forward a notice of motion this evening relating to those minutes. There wasn't a notice of motion at that meeting.
Okay, other questions? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? That is carried. So we're down to number 15. We have no matters that were postponed. We have no motions that notice was previously given. Discussion of additional business, Deputy Mayor O'Leary.
It's just you and I.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about the 10th Street Bridge and the ceremony. Dennis Kapelis, Director of Operations, I want to thank you and congratulate you on getting this thing done. I think you kind of shocked the general public. For the people that were guessing when this was going to open, no one would guess that it was going to be a week early, so congrats on that. The actual ceremony itself, I thought, was well put together, and there was nothing forgotten. We had council across the ribbon, we had staff on the side of 10th Street, we had operations committee members, we had the DIA members on the road as well. There's one thing that did happen, though, that I wanted to tell the story. There was 3 young kids standing on the sidewalk, and the mayor went over and got these kids. He didn't even know them. Brought them over, had them stand in front of him with the ribbon, had their picture taken, and I thought, wow, what a move. Like, that was so classy. Those kids, those young kids, will have that forever. 25 years from now, they'll be showing their own kids, saying, that's me with the mayor when the 10th Street Bridge opened, and I just wanted to commend the mayor for doing that. That was pretty classy. And while I'm in such a happy mood, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, stay safe, follow the rules, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. I'm starting to follow Tim, and I'm thinking even longer range. So I was thinking about those kids with their grandchildren the next time the bridge starts to be discussed about being replaced, which of course will happen about 20 years out before they get around to it. So likely in those kids' lifetime that they'll be able to say, yeah, I was there the last time. Yeah, neat, really polite kids, and that was fun. On that, I have a letter that we've received from Alex Ruff, our member of Parliament. First off, I want to say a huge thank you for the invitation to the ribbon cutting for the opening of 10th Street Bridge. I am truly disappointed that I cannot be in attendance to celebrate this exciting event with everyone, but as you're reading this, I'm en route back to the riding from Ottawa. It has been truly impressive to see the dedication and hard work of everyone involved in this project, especially to see the work completed a week earlier than set out in the city's construction contract during the pandemic is no easy feat. I am excited for the opportunity to take a drive across the new bridge, and I look forward to seeing how this new construction contributes to the beautification of the city, accessibility, and economic recovery after the pandemic. Thank you to everyone involved in the planning, design, and construction of the new bridge, signed Alex Ruff. So that's nice. We didn't actually do any speeches, so that's, I saved that for tonight. Not sure that everyone saw, but our Greybur's Health Unit received 2 awards last week in a ceremony from the Trillium Gift of Life Network for their commitment to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Greybur's Health Services is receiving the Provincial Conversion Rate Award for the 5th time. This award is given to hospitals that met or exceeded the Trillium Gift of Life Network's target of converting potential eligible organ donors into actual organ donors. With a conversion rate of 100%, Greybur's Health Services had 4 organ donors in 2019-2020. Greybur's Health Services is also receiving the Award of Excellence for the first time. This award is given to the hospitals for meeting or exceeding provincial targets for conversion for 4 or more consecutive years, demonstrating the outstanding commitment to the implementation of donation-leading practices. We're excited about their wonderful accomplishments, and there is still a lot of work to do. Oh, they're telling me what to do there. That's okay. We did send out a letter on behalf of council to the Greybur's Health Services and to their staff on winning these awards. That is impressive, and I guess that's even more of a statement of why we live in Owen Sound, eh? Finally, I met a couple of weeks ago, and it was before our last meeting, but I didn't cover it. I met online with a really fun group from the Blue Water Toastmasters. Toastmasters was celebrating an anniversary, and I don't have the number here, I think it was 45, and apparently one of the people that started it was our own Arlene Wright. There we go, 45th anniversary, started by Arlene Wright and others, so that kind of brings it home to us. Really fun group. They meet regularly from all over. Graham Bruce, of course, they're meeting by Skype or Zoom these days. They offer a program called Speechcraft, which they're running for students of the Arden Language Centre here in Owen Sound. The participants are new Canadians who are mastering their use of English. Speechcraft is a program designed to help participants develop public speaking skills. They learn these skills during 5 two-hour meetings. During each meeting, participants learn and practice speaking and evaluation skills and have the opportunity to learn from experienced speakers. Participants learn and practice in a friendly, non-threatening environment. Together, they help one another grow and develop as speakers, and best of all, they have fun as they learn. So if anyone is interested in that program themselves, please contact Blue Water Toastmasters. You can find them online on the internet. Even people that are interested in being on council that maybe aren't accustomed to speaking into a microphone, it's an opportunity to polish up your skills before you do have to step into the ring and be able to speak and speak with confidence. So it's a pretty good group. So I told them I would mention that. With that, those are all my comments for this second. We can move on to moving that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
Moved by myself that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
All in favor? That is carried. Motion to adopt.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations and presentations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports of city staff, consent agenda, committee minutes, matters postponed, motions for which notice was previously given, and additional business be confirmed by this council.
And all in favor? That's carried. Notices of motion.
Mr. Chairman, Your Worship, I'm thrilled to give notice of motion to be considered at our next meeting. That, in consideration of the minutes from the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee held December 1/2020, City Council directs the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Director and Chief Curator to prepare a report for the Tom Thompson Art Gallery Advisory Committee respecting the proposed establishment of an expansion of the Art Gallery Facility Ad Hoc Committee as required in the city's board and committee bylaw. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. Are there any other notices of motion? Seeing none. Bylaws. Brianna?
Through Your Worship, the bylaws listed for approval on tonight's agenda include the confirmatory bylaw to adopt a community safety and well-being plan, a bylaw to execute a donation agreement with Bumstead Insurance and Financial respecting indoor walking at the Bayshore, a bylaw to execute a second amended agreement with Grey Bruce Health Services for the temporary hospital at the Bayshore, a bylaw to execute an agreement with 157137 Ontario Limited respecting the installation of a water main check valve chamber, a bylaw to execute an amending agreement with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs respecting the RED program, a bylaw to execute an amending agreement with Sound Lifestyles Limited respecting a waiver for payment of development charges for property located at 2380 9th Ave East, and a bylaw to amend the traffic bylaw to remove parking on 10th Street East due to the reopening of the bridge.
Great, thank you. Councillor Hamley?
Should I say something about your lights? Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kepke, that bylaw numbers 2020-135, 2020-136, 2020-137, 2020-138, 2020-139, 2020-140, 2020-141, and 2020-142 be passed and enacted.
And all in favor? That is carried. So on behalf of council, we wish everybody happy holidays. So no matter your background, your heritage, your religion, we wish you happy holidays. We wish Merry Christmas and also Happy Hanukkah. I think we're in the middle, right in the middle of 8 days of the Hanukkah festival. Council decided to dress up tonight as best we could with our Christmas sweaters to help bring in the spirit. We hope everyone has a great Christmas, a safe Christmas. Be kind to each other, be patient with each other, be safe, and man, we're all looking forward to 2021. So with that, it is 8:41 p.m. We've concluded our business. We're adjourned for 2020. Thank you.